So this is kind of new. I don't normally just upload videos on here, but I wanted to give an important message that I feel needs to be spoken of. Don't mind the oil pocket on my face. Um, Something that I think a lot of people in recovery deal with, especially people who have been habitual relapsers like I was, like my husband was. Something we deal with is people who have been in our lives during our addiction, and they no longer want to give us a chance. They no longer care if we're doing good or not. We have failed so many times, they just want to see us in that light. It takes too much work and too much effort to see someone for who they truly are, and it's easier to just assume they're always going to be a failure. Oh, she might be clean now, but who's to say she won't relapse in a year if something traumatic happens? We have to get to a place where we know for a fact that we're done going back. And it no longer can be something that we just say and think it's going to happen one day. You have to literally be tired of being sick. And I finally reached that point when I came to Arizona because I had no one to rely on. You know, my husband was in a deep addiction as well, and one of us had to stand on our own 2 feet. Can you cut it out? One of us had to be the one to stand strong and do it, and the other one followed. And that's what a marriage is about. It's about doing things together. People who are together that have been in addiction together, usually their relationship doesn't last. It's more codependency than anything. But when I learned about codependency and I learned that Doug and I were codependent, I immediately wanted to correct that. And I knew that I had to get sober in order to do that. And so those were the steps that I took, to start to better what we have together. I made efforts. And that's something that you do in a marriage. That's not something you do for someone who's let you down over and over and over again. But if you were married to that person, you might. And unfortunately, we don't treat every single relationship as we do a marriage, but we should. Because marriage is forgiveness and selflessness over and over again. And love without sacrifice is theft. There is going to be suffering in your marriage. There's going to be suffering in your recovery. There's going to be suffering in the relationships that you are trying to rebuild. Because some of those people aren't even going to give you the chance to rebuild those relationships. And that's really, really disgusting and sad. Because I guarantee you, they're still making mistakes and they're still getting second chances. What I really love is when people come against people like me who are in recovery, and these people go to the bar every weekend, or they go to the bar and have a drink every time there's a special occasion. Well, understand, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's good for you. Alcohol kills just as many people as heroin and cocaine combined. So we have to understand that everybody has an addiction. Everybody needs to get over their addiction with love and support and family. And if you are someone who is holding a grudge against a family member because they keep getting sober and they keep relapsing, love them while they are sober. Don't sit back and say, "Oh, I would just want them to be better." They are better. And what does it matter if they're only better for a few months or a few years? That's what gets me. You only want people to be sober when it's on your conditions. It doesn't work that way. Recovery does not work the way you want it to. Recovery works the way it works, and everybody's different. Trust and believe that. You're going to go through things in your recovery that you never thought you would go through. And it's going to make you question, why am I even sober? If I am getting all of this going on in my life, if I am experiencing this much chaos, because some of you will, what is the point? And that, my friend, is when you are going to come to a turning point in your life where you will finally realize, I have to be sober because I want to be sober. Not because there's some reward of being sober. Why does everything have to have a reward? Why can't you just be sober because you need to stop putting poison in your body? Everybody puts poison in their body. Not just with drugs, not just with alcohol, the very food that you buy from the grocery store. Just because it's FDA approved doesn't mean it's all safe. So there's a lot of grudge holding that goes on in relationships, and a lot of people who are loud and wrong. And we have to understand that we may never, ever, 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 ever get the apology that we deserve from some people because of the way they have treated us in our recovery. But that's okay. We don't need their apology. We don't need anything from them. In fact, we can totally separate ourselves from them, miss what might have been, and move on with our life and stay sober doing it. And when you learn that you have that power, it no longer matters who's going to forgive you and who's not. And when there's children involved, I understand that that's even harder. I have situations where children are involved and people, the last thing they want to do is get to know who I am now that I've been sober almost 3 years with no relapse. They think I'm lying. They think I'm lying like I've always lied. And that's because they refuse to get to know who I am. But if they had any discernment, they would know I'm not lying. But they don't have discernment. They don't. People with discernment don't judge a book by its cover. They also don't judge somebody by something they've always done. When you have the Spirit, the true Holy Spirit, you treat people as you want to see them, successful and prosperous. That is how you always treat people. You have boundaries, but you always let people know. Leave people better than you found them. If you continue to believe someone's always going to be a failure, yet in another breath say, oh, I want you to have this person in your life, I want you to be sober, you're a hypocrite. Flat out. And you need to stop. You need to want people to have people they love in their lives as long as they're sober. Because in all reality, no sin is greater or smaller in God's eyes. You're glorifying relapsing as being wrong because it's the only thing you have to point out about that person. So there are some changes that need to be made all around. But the one thing we need to learn as recovering addicts is we cannot allow what other people think about us to move us. We have to stop allowing our feelings to be moved by people who have no boundaries and who remain toxic and who remain dead in their own addictions that they refuse to acknowledge. Drugs and alcohol aren't the only addictions out there. Sometimes you can be addicted to spending money, addicted to shopping, addicted to pornography, addicted to gambling. You can be addicted to hoarding things. You can be addicted to stealing, addicted to lying. There's a lot of things that people don't acknowledge, but they cherry pick. Don't be someone who cherry picks. Forgive everyone. Don't hold grudges. Cut off those who don't deserve your attention, and do not give your attention to those who refuse to give you any efforts and learn who you are. Love them from afar. Love who you are. And don't ever forget that this is your journey. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's. People who refuse to get to know who you are now, it's because they want to see you in that light that you are no longer in. Have a great day.